Welcome to another edition of the Cannabis Insurance Journal. My name is Tony, your cannabis insurance specialist. And today we're going to talk about some additional coverages that may be necessary for your operation. Now, if you recall on the last segment, I discussed the four most important coverages needed for your operation. Today, we're just going to go over a couple more, so this podcast is not going to be very lengthy. If you recall on the last podcast, I discussed general liability, product liability, property liability, and loss of income coverage. Okay, so on this particular podcast, I want to cover a couple of more coverages that may be a necessity for your particular operation. One of which is the non-owned or hired auto coverage. This mainly deals with vehicles that are going to transport your product. This coverage deals with bodily injury and property damage caused by a vehicle you hire, or rented or borrowed vehicles. It also deals with non-owned vehicles, meaning vehicles owned by others, including those owned by your employees. The coverages or the coverage limits of these particular forms of policies can range as high as $350,000 or to $500,000, or as low as the state minimum. Okay, so you just have to choose the one that is applicable for your particular operation. All right, so the next form of insurance that I'm going to talk about here is called crop insurance. Now, this is also a very important aspect of covering your operation. This coverage is designed to cover living plant material, harvested plant material, and the finished stock from claims of fire, theft, vandalism, smoke, etc. This covers your seedlings, your flowerings, the vegetative stage of your product, as well as the finished stock. Crop insurance covers the stock through all stages of development. That's what you need to know. Okay? So, as we move on, we'll discuss another form of liability or another form of coverage that's called excess liability. Excess liability is coverage for your underlying commercial general policy that exceeds the normal limits. These are normally your umbrella policies. Now, the coverage limit for excess liability policies can be up to $4 million in additional coverage. Excess liability is primarily designed for larger grow operations or larger dispensary operations. At this level, you're probably supplying several other dispensaries, or you're probably a big corporation with large orders. In this instance, an excess liability policy will be applicable or will be a necessity for your particular business. Okay. And finally, I wanted to go through and break down product liability coverage because I don't think I, did a very thorough job on the last podcast. So we're going to do a little better here. Product liability is, again, when someone has an adverse reaction to your crop. Now, product liability breaks down into three specific categories. One is a manufacturing defect. One is a design defect, and then the other and the final one is a failure to warn. These are the three categories of product liability with respect to people using your particular form of cannabis, whatever it may be. Now, that form is designed to that coverage is designed to cover you. Usually, it has a $2 million aggregate, $1 million per occurrence coverage limit for product liability, because suits of product liability usually range somewhere in the $1 to $2 million range. That's why those limits are placed in for that particular coverage. All right, now, should you have any more questions, you can contact me at ohiocannabisinsurance@gmail.com. You can also go to my blog at ohiocannabisinsurance.org. Like, share, and subscribe the articles and the podcasts. You can also reach me by phone at my toll-free number at 877-638-0311. I am also available locally in the Miami Valley area at 937-247-66 We're sending a shout out today, a special shout out to the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, Jeff LaFollette and Tim Johnson. Those are really good guys. Take the opportunity to partake of their information and of their knowledge in the industry. Until next time, this has been Tony, your cannabis insurance specialist in Ohio, saying take care and stay safe.